Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Elite City Podcast. This is the aftermath of Revolution, and it's me and Mr. Rick tonight. What a pay-per-view it was!
Yeah, it was a great show. It was
unbelievable.
My view of it, I feel like, was slightly tainted because I watched it late. I started at like 10 o'clock my time,
Okay,
and then watched it till like 2 a.m. because I wanted to see what happened before. I with pay-per-views, I want to watch them that day if I can because they get spoiled and then I get wrecked. So I watched it. But like watching a match at 10 o'clock versus watching a match at 1 a.m., it's different. So I felt like I mentioned to you, like I was thinking, oh, did the Osprey Fletcher match seem really long to you? And you're like, no, it was fine. It was great.
Yeah.
And, like to me, it was a good match, obviously. Like I respect what they were in. That was insane. But it was like 1:30 in the morning for me. So I was just like, I this is too much. But I know that that's the time, not the match itself.
And I think I even mentioned to you when we were watching it on my end, we thought it went by and like we thought it was short.
Yeah.
Like we're like, it's over already. And then you look, it was like, oh, that was almost an hour. It was like 42 minutes or something.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Oh, I mean, we'll start right there. Unbelievable. The story that they told. I mean, come on, they're best friends, so they probably had this match 6,000 times in their training rings and facilities throughout the years, but still, it was so good, and it meant something. If that makes any sense.
That's why it was good, because it meant something. Like obviously the stuff they did was crazy, falling off the cage and whatever else. There was thumbtacks in that one, right? Thumbtacks, and like the craziness that they went through, like obviously is hard to do and terrifying and should be commended for like entertainment purposes. But if there was no story behind it, 10 minutes in, you would have been like, okay, I get it. You're gonna read some more. Yes. But because there was a good story, it made it so much better. And the story was great. The story of like totally. Fletcher just yelling like, I hate you, ready, like before he left. It was so good.
Now my question for you is, are those two names that you add to, I mean, we used to have the pillars or whatever you want to call them now. I mean, there's obviously a foundation, but do you add Osprey and Fletcher to those names of the people you build the company around?
Yeah, I'm going to say two things. One,
yes,
Fletcher, I think, is good enough that he should be in like upper mid card. He should be like where Takeshita and them are at like that level. Like not necessarily main event, but very close to the top, competing for titles. Like he's great, and he's still really young, and he does a great job. And for some reason, since he joined with Don Callis and he cut his hair, he's been like a totally different guy, and it's been awesome. He definitely deserves to be one of the main guys. And my other point, which I think is probably slightly controversial, at least to some, I think Osprey is the face of AEW. Like he's their guy.
Oh, I agree.
He's like their top guy. They have obviously a ton of top guys. They have, Omega and all the people and Mox and everybody else, right? But Osprey is their guy, and I'm gonna get slightly ahead of ourselves when he's their guy because he already said I'm challenging for the belt at All In, and like that's their biggest show, and he's their biggest name, and he's their biggest performer. Not only is the biggest name, he's their biggest performer. Every single match he has is good to great. Like he set a new standard for wrestling matches, I'd say. Like you can't be on a card if you're like a competitive wrestler. And most wrestlers are pretty competitive. If you are on a card and you see that Osprey's also on that card, I'm sure they're like, oh, I'm gonna have to work extra hard. I'm gonna have to do something extra good, because otherwise everyone's just gonna be talking about the Will Osprey match.
Right. I mean, the bar is raised before the show even starts.
Yeah.
And that's a good point that you make. He is somebody that you build around, but like his level, his professionalism, like he is the total package. Excuse the pun.
I mean, his slogan is on another level, and he's on another level. Like he is.
Yeah.
Like not even just in the ring, his personality, his character, like he's so like energetic when he comes out. Like the crowd perks up. That's that the second this music hits. right? Like everyone's just like it changes the mood. Like when it can be a dull, boring show, and Ospreay's music hits and everyone goes nuts. Like the only one who comes close to that on the men's side is Swerve, I'd say.
True. Yeah, I won't argue with that. And just the thought of people like Swerve and Kyle Fletcher and Ospreay in the main events and just having matches is going to be, just the thought of it is insane.
Yeah, this is where I think I am going to skip ahead slightly. That's why I'm slightly bothered by the Mox Adam Copeland stuff. Like the match was okay. People were like trashing it like it was the worst thing they've ever seen, and it wasn't. It was fine. Like it was fine.
It was fine, but it shouldn't have been. We're going to get to that too. It shouldn't have been the main event.
Yeah, definitely not. And considering the other, not just the women's match that we think should have been the main event, and said before the show should have been the main event. Not just that match. Like there were 4 or 5 matches that were like just better than that match. Like they were.
Yeah, I agree.
And the problem is I'm going to put Kenny Omega in there, even though he's not a young guy. He's still pretty young, and he's new in terms of North American wrestling, right? He's only been on the scene since AEW showed up, really, in terms of North American wrestling. So you have Omega, Ospreay, Takeshita, Swerve, people like that, and then it feels they should be your male stars. That should be your main event. Those guys, plus 5 or 6 others who are all in their 30s or younger. Mox is a great wrestler. I like Mox. Adam Copeland's one of my favorite wrestlers ever, but I don't think they should be main eventing if they have so many guys. If this is when this is when AEW first started and Jericho is in the main events, of course, because you don't have very many guys, but like they have, those guys, they have Hangman, they have MJF, they have so many people that could be world title competitors.
And I think that is where a little bit of that backlash for the main event comes from. Again, not that it was a bad match or like, oh my God, they didn't even deserve to be on the card. That's not that.
Right.
It's again, I know it's a weird business where, they say the world title has to be last because it's the most prestigious for something you don't actually win. Like if it was like boxing, like, okay. But like, no, the world title is just like the owner usually says, hey, you're going to win it now. Good. Okay, cool.
Toni Storm alluded to that with her promo after the show on Dynamite, where she was just like, the other world titles in a briefcase. Like she also holds a world title. That was also a world title match. It's not like it was a non-title, like Fletcher and Ospreay. I can see why that didn't main event. It was a great match. They're 2 upcoming, 2 huge stars. They're 2 great wrestlers. They had a personal great feud, but I can see why that didn't main event because it was for nothing, really, right? Like they weren't competing for anything. But Tony and Mariah was for a world title. Like it's the women's world title. And there's a men's world title. They're technically equal, right? So I don't know why that was the main event.
I agreed. And this is where, and Tony owns Ring of Honor and books Ring of Honor the way that Ring of Honor used to be booked. Like there have been multiple times where the Ring of Honor TV title has main evented over the title match has been the main event over the world title or even the women's title.
Yeah.
Like you said, it doesn't need to be the men's world title. It just needs to be title.
And there's been other AEW pay-per-views where the world title wasn't last. Like they've had Stadium Stampede matches be last or, various different things come on last. So it's not like the men's world title is always it is a lot of the time, but it's not always. So it didn't need to be. And that I have a question for you now. If Tony and Mariah weren't the main event, which they weren't, and it was for the women's title, and it was one of the best feuds, not only in AEW, but in wrestling in the last, 15 years, I'd say.
Absolutely.
If they don't get to main event, do women ever get to main event a pay-per-view?
Oh yeah, it's definitely coming.
Because why would it not be that one though?
I agree.
That's your perfect opportunity for a women's main event.
Totally.
No one would complain. It's not like you could see it and go, oh, they're only putting them in the main event because they want a women main event. Like that 100% deserved it.
I totally agree. And we'll get there. But yeah, it should have been the main event, and that would have been the absolute perfect main event first women's main event, and it would also been the perfect ender to the.
I mean, you could have even had Omega versus Takeshita as the main event. Really, it's still for a title. Right? They've had the international title as main event shows before.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you could have done that, and I think that would have even been a better choice. And again, not that it wasn't a bad match. It was fine. Like, it was fine.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't even think. I like Mox and I like Adam Copeland. I'm not saying I don't like them. This isn't like Jericho where I just don't, where I'm like, I want him to go away for a while. I don't want to see him on TV. It's not that. I just don't think that either of them need to be your main event world title guys right now, because they have so many people. If they had nobody else, if there was a bunch of injuries and like, Ospreay was out, sure, of course that should be your main event. But like, those guys shouldn't even be in the world title. They should be upper mid card guys, or like they should be having the kind of feuds that Ospreay and Fletcher had.
That's what I was literally just going to say. This should have been a personal, I've been mad at you since 93. Right. Like, yeah, totally. And like, even start the show. That'd be a great opener to any pay-per-view. Anyways, you mentioned the international title. The belt collector, Kenny Omega, started collecting belts again. He beats Takeshita, which, I mean, could this match was borderline perfect if we're being honest.
Yeah, it was a great match.
It was so good. I understand how, I understand the movements in the ring and the cardio that goes into it, but both of these guys were on another level in that ring. I don't think it was less than full speed from bell to bell. It's even hard to say, but they went that fast.
I saw a thing on Reddit like before this match, like a couple weeks ago, and someone said, I haven't watched any wrestling in a long time, and I know that AEW and WWE are like the two big options right now, right? And they said, "What? I know WWE. I've watched WWE before. How is AEW different from WWE?" And like there was a bunch of answers, right? All kinds of different things. But the one that I thought was probably the best one is like, there was people saying, "Oh, it's the violence, it's the length of the matches, it's the wrestlers' more unique presentation, it's all the matches different." Those are all things. Those are all true.
Yeah.
But the one that I thought was really impactful was that, like, it's just the speed of the matches. Like the speed of the matches in AEW. Like, you haven't watched WWE recently, but I've watched shows like off and on. I've watched. People keep telling me it's great, so I'm like, I'll watch it. And the speed of AEW makes it so you can't watch other wrestling because it all seems so slow.
That makes sense.
Like, I'll watch a WWE match, and people will be like, "Oh, this is an outstanding match," and I'll be like, "Why is it so slow?" Like, it's slow. And I don't even think they didn't get slower. I think AEW just got faster.
Okay.
Like Omega and Takeshita, like they're on full speed all night for, I don't know how long that match was, 20 something minutes.
Yeah. It was, like I said, it was bell to bell, full speed. It was absurd, but like awesome. Like there wasn't anything wrong with it. It was just, I couldn't believe that. I mean, obviously they're both winded, but like, I'd have still been laying there.
Yeah. I mean, Kenny Omega's only had 3 matches since he came back?
Yeah.
He was out for like over a year.
Yeah, this would have been his 3rd match back. That's nuts to think. Yeah. Wow. Unbelievable. Well, I
love that Kenny Omega right before he came back. When his first promo back, he's like, "I don't know if I can be the guy I was before." And then he wrestles, and you're like, "No, you're exactly the guy you were."
It might be better.
If anything, you're faster and better.
Yeah. You gained a step. Like most people lose it. You somehow got faster.
Yeah.
This match led to a little tournament. We have the International Championship Eliminator Tournament. Excuse me.
Isn't it like the International Dynasty? Like, didn't they throw Dynasty in there too?
They very well could have.
They're very bad at naming things sometimes.
Very. The thing that I think's funny is Takeshita should be mad that Omega didn't have to be in the tournament.
Right. If anything, he had to wrestle in order to face Omega.
Right. So yeah,
reason, now there's a tournament. Now when Kenny's champion, now we're gonna have a whole tournament to get to face him.
Yeah, he needs tell Dawn. They need to have a meeting with Tony
about this.
But the final four, which it's this week on Dynamite, is Orange Cassidy versus Speedball Bailey, who we're going to get to. It's Rick's favorite new person. Ricochet and Mark Davis. Did you like the Speedball debut?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him wrestle before. He's a great wrestler.
So good.
The one thing when he does that pose with the fist in his palm.
Yeah,
like you don't have to do it all the time. That was a little weird to me. Like, you do it coming down to the ramp, sure, do it before you bow before the match, but then you don't have to do it like 6 other times in the course of the match. I think that's just like he hasn't been on like huge TV that much. So, but yeah, he's a great wrestler. He's like, I saw him at it was Impact Still show like a year and a half ago in Toronto, and he was partnering with what's his name, the guy with the mustache,
big Bobby guy. Fish.
No, not Bobby Fish. He was in AEW before. Trent. Is it Trent something? Not Trent. Other Trent.
The mustache. Don't know.
Anyway, he was partnering with him. And
gotcha.
The match was so good. Like, he's all over the place. He's all Trent 7. That's who it is.
Oh, okay. As soon as you said that in.
Yeah, he's like a crazy good wrestler. He reminds me a little bit of Rob Van Dam with the kicks and the spins and the martial arts aspects. Like, he's another person that's just like dynamic. Like, you pay attention to him when he's in the ring because he's just doing so many crazy things.
And I cannot comprehend how his finisher doesn't kill somebody.
I know he does land like in your chest with his knees. Like,
yeah, and he usually
you fake that.
Yeah,
like Swerve, when he does the stomp, you can tell he like slides to the side so he doesn't actually land on you.
Yeah, and Excalibur like kept correcting Taz because like he usually does it from the second rope. I was like, that's even higher. Yeah, like, it was impressive that he did it standing and didn't kill somebody. That was he's what a signing. But this match, this 4-way, talk about it's going to be insanity. There's a chance Mark Davis throws Ricochet into the crowd. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, this could be something absurd because he is the biggest guy in the match, so he's going to do something nuts.
He's going to do something, and they're all relatively small.
Yeah.
Who do you think wins?
I was just going to ask you that. I think it's got to be Ricochet.
Oh, I was thinking Speedball.
I mean, Speedball would be awesome.
Ricochet would be cool too. It's one of those two, I think.
I agree.
I think it's Orange again because he's had a lot with the international title.
That's what I was just going to say.
And I don't think Mark Davis, like, he's a great wrestler, but I don't think he's at the level of any of the rest of them.
Yeah, and I mean, he's also known as a tag team wrestler.
Yeah.
Which it really bothers me. I mean, I know there's a plan for what, just by the way he's acting, something is going to happen, but they have to get there. It's bothering me.
Yeah, that he's just sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Either Ricochet or Speedball would be a great match because, like, I mean, it's Kenny Omega, so.
Well, that's what I was just thinking. Like, Ricochet Omega, unbelievable.
That would be good.
But Ricochet Speedball, I mean, that works too.
Yeah.
Anyways, do you just want to skip right to the tag division since we already talked about?
Let's do that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the tag division, the Hurt Syndicate, as we assumed, beat the Outrunners.
Yes.
But there was a little shakeup throughout TV this week. The Murder Machines had, which has been rare, 2 big nights on Dynamite, then on Collision also.
Is Lance Armstrong done in Japan? Because for a while he was like on AEW for like 1 or 2 weeks, and then he'd go to Japan for months. Is he no longer there? Because he's been on TV a lot more.
That's a very good question that I didn't even think about, but he might be, because it's like finally, like you said, like he's been there more and you can put him into a story and it makes sense. So that's a good question. It may be, but I like
that'll be. I think that's where they're leading. the Murder Machines against the Hurt, and that would be a really fun match.
Very much so. And I liked how on both shows that the Murder Machines just beat people up the entire show.
Yeah.
Like I that's an old trope, but I thought it just fit. Like you're trying to build them up.
We'll talk about it later. Like Megan Bayne kind of did the same thing.
Yeah.
And it works. Like you can't do it all the time, but it does work.
Yeah. Now, just the tag division, I wrote down, and if I left anybody out or if I overlooked anybody or whatever, let me know. These are just the teams off the top of my head that if you could throw them in right now and it makes sense. The new team of Commander and Hologram, of course, the Outrunners, Dante and Darius Martin, Bennett and Taven. When the Bucks come back, I mean, you can put the Bucks anywhere. FTR, the infantry has been like talk about like coming up from dark and elevation. Like the infantry are going to be big here. Grizzled Young Vets, people forget about them. Dark Order minus John Silver right now. John Silver's injured, but Uno and Reynolds have been tagging. And the Gates of Agony. All those are low to mid upper card tag teams that would make sense.
Yeah, there's also Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong. Is the Kingdom, are they still in AEW?
The Kingdom.
Like Bennett and Taven?
Well, I mentioned Bennett and Taven.
Oh, did you? Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Actually, go ahead.
Did you mention is it Crew they are now?
I don't know who the hell you're talking about.
What's his name? Leo Rush and
Andretti. That I missed that segment last night. Actually, that's the one segment I didn't watch. Okay, so they named their tag team. What's the tag team?
They had like a video online, but I think they named it. It stands for something like something reckless something. I don't remember what it was.
Okay,
CRU. It stands for something.
See, that's awesome. See, I did forget about them too.
I like them when they're obnoxious jackets.
Their jackets are incredible. I messaged
guns. There's the guns.
Oh yeah, dude, I did forget about the guns. See, the tag division's gnarly.
Yeah.
When they announced that they were a tag team, they were looking for a name, and I put Rush to Action on on I think it was Threads. It was either Threads or Blue Sky, and one of them liked it, and I was like, "Oh, please don't use that. Please, like that would be terrible if that would be like my internet claim to fame." Hey, look at what this fan wrote. So we're gonna name our team this. Like, no, get my name off that. I was being stupid.
Nice.
Anyways, yeah, the tag division's nuts. Who do you pick out of who dethrones the Hurt Syndicate?
That's a tough one.
Because
they're so like dominant that I could see Murder Machines are the ones who could stand up to them like physically.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they'll be the ones who beat them. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm looking like
Crazy Reckless Unhinged. Crazy Ruthless Unhinged, by the way. That's
okay.
CRU.
The fan in me would love Gates of Agony just because they deserve it.
Yeah.
But I've since you added them, I'm gonna say the tag belts go to Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong. I say that's who beats them.
I can see that. Now, while we're on this topic, remember that they have trios titles?
That's why I didn't include them, because I thought it was dumb.
I thought that there's a chance that Undisputed Kingdom goes for the trios titles instead, and
that would be okay.
That would require them to have the trios titles on a show.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll never see them again. Oh, this 2.0, they're back, right?
Oh yeah, 2.0 is yeah. So again, it makes sense too. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. Wow, the tag division's insane.
Yeah, it's really good. But you notice that the trios title just kind of disappeared, and the tag division got good again.
Yeah. Oh, well, ding, ding, ding. That's what I was just gonna say. I think I said it last week or 2 weeks ago. I wholeheartedly think they need to just have one set of trios and go between Ring of Honor and AEW.
Like, I'd honestly be fine if like they've just like Mox was just like, I don't care about those belts, and just forgot about it, and they just never mentioned them again. And then have the ROH 6-man if you want to have a trios match. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's, I don't know, like it's fun to have, but it makes no sense.
It makes no sense, and it has damaged the tag. Like, every time the trios titles become a focus, it damages the tag division. Like it does every single time. Unless they wanted to make it like just a stable title, where like, but then even then, I don't like it. Oh, did we do Hounds of Hell?
Well, I kept them out on purpose because they're not officially a tag team.
Right. True. They could take the belts though.
Oh yeah, definitely. They could definitely
see them taking the belts.
I
could actually see Leo Rush and Action and Ready, because they're just like such smarmy little jerks.
Oh, and I
could see them like cheating somehow, or just like someone distracts, Shelton Benjamin, and they cheat and roll him up and then just run away. Like they're just like little slimy.
They could play into like Leo would maybe know Lashley like has a weakness, like, oh, he has a bum knee or something.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. I like that.
That would be fun. And then you play into the the history that's there.
Yeah, it's because it is going to be hard to take the titles off the Hurt Syndicate, because first of all, they're awesome and huge.
Yes.
And they're super over, and everybody like wants to see them. So it's going to be hard to take the title. I mean, they could hold the titles for like a year.
I would be okay with that.
And just like, there's still a tag division outside of them, but it would kind of just be like, you have to line up to lose to them. And I think that could work for a while.
Oh, that would be so fun. Oh, they're so good. And MVP is so good. Oh.
He's really good. He's great.
Well, what we thought was going to be the main event is our main event, and it's probably going to be the thing we spend the most time on. The Hollywood ending.
Yes.
Which the match itself was, again, it was close to perfect. I mean, there are things that I would nitpick here or there, but everything about it wasn't gimmicky. It wasn't too long. It was,
if anything, it was slightly too short.
Yeah, I could have been longer.
It could have been like 5 minutes longer, and it would have been.
Yeah,
I would have been fine with that. Like I watched, like I said, I watched it late, but I guess this was early enough in the show that like when it ended, I was like, oh man, that was awesome. But like, I kind of sad it's over. Like it was so good. Oh, did you think Tony cut herself a lot deeper than she was supposed to cut herself?
I think there was a little bit being overzealous there,
because she was bleeding way more than people bleed in the match. Like, did you ever see that Eddie Guerrero JBL match?
Yes.
It reminded me a bit of that, like to the point where I was like, I hope she doesn't pass out, because that's a lot of blood. This match was great. Tony cemented herself as, I mean, we all knew she was great, but that the 2.5 to 3 years, however long this whole thing was, the transformation, she put herself as an all-time, like, timeless Tony Storm is literally going to go down in history. And I mean, even the promo she cut on Dynamite, the right afterwards, awesome. Like, she's incredible. She's just like a superstar and a huge name, and like the storyline itself was, I'm not kidding when I say it's not only the best, obviously the best women's feud in AEW, but it's not only one of the best feuds in AEW. I think it's like, it is probably one of the best feuds in like the last 10, 15 years of wrestling. I know part of those years have been really bad, but
I would say like maybe in ever.
Yeah.
Like,
it's really good.
I mean, it's up there. It'd take the animosity out of it. It's up there with like Brett and Shawn good.
Yeah. And it never got dull. Like there's
right.
Like the Mox Death Riders thing, right? Like I liked it when it started off. It's dull now. And I know where they're heading. Mm-hmm. And like I was thinking this, like when Tony Storm said the other world titles in a briefcase. Like you kind of forget that it exists, right? That there's a world title because you never see it. And I understand what they're building to, that after so long, someone possibly Swerve, possibly Will Ospreay, somebody wins it and takes it out of the briefcase, and it's like a huge moment that like the title's back. Like I understand what they're building to. Like that will be a big moment when that does happen. Like it's going to be a big moment. But the storyline dragged in the middle because they have a beginning and I'm sure they have an ending, but they don't have what are we going to do for the other 6 months? Right. And when you look at WWE, like everyone will talk about like the Bloodline story or the Cody Rhodes story, you know, winning the title. And Cody Rhodes winning the title at WrestleMania 40 was it was a fun match. Like they had a bunch of cameos and it was a fun match and it was a good moment when he won the belt. It was. But like he lost the year before at WrestleMania. And like the year between those two was just like we're gonna do stuff for a year until next WrestleMania when he gets his rematch. Like it really dragged. And that's not me hating on WWE because the end game, it reminds me of the Mox story. The end game was good. Cody winning the belt was a big thing. And whenever Mox loses the belt, it's going to be a big thing.
Totally.
But like they drag in the middle, like the MJF Adam Cole thing, even if Adam Cole didn't get hurt, like the devil thing dragged. Like it was really good at the beginning.
Yeah.
But it dragged by the end. Right. And some of the other great feuds, you know, Hangman and Omega or MJF and CM Punk, like those were great feuds, but they were shorter. They were like a few months, right? They were like several, like a regular wrestling feud, you know, 3 or 4 months. This was like what, like a year and a half, 2 years almost?
Yeah, at least 18 months.
And it wasn't dull at any point, ever. It never dragged. I never got, just get to the end of this. I know where this is going. Like that never happened at any point in this feud.
And I was thinking about this afternoon. This started with, I would say 95% of people not knowing who Mariah May was. I mean, I knew her name, but that was about it.
Yeah, when she signed, I remember hearing people saying, "Oh, she's a great wrestler," and being like, "Oh, I'm excited to see her." But that's all I knew about her.
And to like now, she's like, I don't want to say a household name, but if you watch AEW, you know who Mariah May is.
Yeah, that's even more impressive because the Cody Roman Reigns thing, like they were already big names in WWE.
Yeah.
Like that feud didn't make either of them really. Like it made them better, but it like they were already main event guys.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Mariah May was like, you know, opening card, random new signing, and now she's like at the top. She's in the top, 3-4 people. In the division. Like it made her for sure.
And it's like bananas how, like, I mean, her level now is, I mean, obviously the pedigree's there. We know what she could do, but if she takes 2 months off now because of what she just went through, when she comes back, people are going to go bananas.
Yeah.
Like she's a made lady in AEW.
And I love how when it first started, when she showed up and was kind of like an annoying Tony Storm fan, and Tony was like, Ugh.
Yeah.
Everyone saw that and thought it's going to go one of two ways. Tony's going to befriend her and then turn on her.
Yeah.
Or Mariah's going to win her over and then turn on her. Right. That's what you thought. But everyone thought that was going to happen over the course of like 2 months.
Right.
Not over the course of like a year and a half and be this detailed and involved and meaningful and like Tony Storm is naturally a very silly character. Like it's silly.
Yeah.
That that she thinks she's like a old film star, right? Like that's silly, but she makes it work. Like it's emotional and meaningful, even though it's really like at its surface, it's really dumb. Right.
Right. And you were talking about her promo. Excuse me. Her first promo back, she called out both Mercedes and Athena, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
And she didn't even call Athena out by name. She called her the Forever Champion, which if you watch ROH, that's what she calls herself. So I liked that. Okay, Toni Storm basically, cemented herself in the division, but she basically called everybody out, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It was like from Billy Starks at the beginning of their career to Mercedes Moné, the biggest female wrestler in the world, like just calling everybody out and anybody in between. Like if you want it, come get it.
And she manages to do it. Like it was basically, yeah, anybody wants me, come get me. But she manages to do it in character.
Yes.
And it fits the show.
Yeah.
Like it fits wrestling, but it also fits her character. Like she's so good. Yeah. Like she's just so good at this.
And
that's what I always think about.
So good. I'm sorry.
I always think about things when wrestlers, it's hard to do. And, I knock the Bucks for it, but they've done it successfully sometimes, but I do knock the Bucks for it. It's hard to blend real life and wrestling, or a gimmick and a storyline. It's hard to blend two things together and make them both make sense. Right. Yeah. Like you can.
Yeah.
I always have a problem with wrestlers talking about how, back when I was asking you questions about how to become a wrestler, I'm like, wait a second, in your storyline, you guys shouldn't know each other, right? Like in storyline, there's no way you should know each other. Like, I don't know, can't think of an example, but stuff like that. Right?
Yeah.
But Toni Storm, like, it makes no sense that she thinks she's a ancient film star, but she can fit it into AEW. Like she fits it into she doesn't seem out of place in AEW. Whereas some characters seem out of place. And I think that's one of the reasons Danhausen had a problem. Maybe it was booking, maybe it was AEW, I don't know. But Danhausen was Danhausen, but it always felt like Danhausen is Danhausen, but he's not mixed in with AEW.
Right.
He's a character.
Good call.
Or, they're no longer with AEW, but like Abaddon, they have a really cool character, that really cool presentation, but how does a undead zombie fit into AEW? That was never explained. And I don't blame the wrestlers. I'm not saying it's their fault. Like totally. The booking or the writing might not have been there for them. But somehow Tony makes it work.
That's what I was just gonna say. Like there's something there that it could even be, that perfect, excuse the pun, the perfect storm, where the fans bought into it, she bought into it, the writers bought into it, and it was just one of those things that come hell or high water, it was going to work. If that makes any sense.
Speaking of that, do you think that this was planned to be this big and this long, when they planned that she's going to lose the title and she's going to go nuts and think she's like an old film star? Do you think they planned for it to be like this long and this meaningful, or like we're just going to do this for a couple months because it's something for her to do and then she'll snap out of it and do something else?
Knowing that RJ City was involved and he's that much of a nerd, yes, that was 100% planned to be a long, drawn out. Considering that, if it wasn't for you and Biddy finding the movie that they referenced, I wouldn't have, it was such an odd reference. He's that much of a nerd. So yeah, I think it was
the specifics of it. It's all about Eve, right? Is the movie?
Yeah.
The date they had, I forget what did they do? They handed out, old school, like folded fans for the match that said the Hollywood ending, and the date listed on it was the date All About Eve came out.
That's amazing. See, that's incredible.
So good. It's it's just the attention to detail, the how it elevated them. It elevated, that's part of the reason why I was mad that it wasn't the main event, because not only was it a great feud, great wrestling, great match, but it elevated the women's division in AEW, and it kind of elevated AEW. For a period when AEW was it's overblown, when people are they don't tell any stories. That's always been overblown and stupid. Because they do.
Yeah.
But I could see the argument, a year and a half ago, probably a year and a half ago now, that they might be telling stories, but they're not stories that you care about. Right. That's what some people meant when they said they weren't telling stories. They meant was they're not telling stories that you like. Right.
Right.
And whenever there was the argument people made, AEW doesn't tell any stories that I like, a lot of people's point was always, watch the Toni Storm, Mariah May stuff, because that's good. Maybe the rest of it you won't care about. Maybe the rest of it is stuff you don't want to see, but they're doing a great job. And they kind of elevated AEW. Maybe they can tell stories. Maybe I've overlooked it because look how good this one is. If this one's this good, maybe the rest of it's this good, right? And then you paid attention to it. And I don't know if it's because I said this last week. I don't know if it's because people moved on, Punk's gone, and people like Miro and Malachi Black and Ricky Stark, who didn't want to be there. are no longer there. Or if it's because they got people like Will Ospreay and Swerve stepped up and Tony Storm stepped up. But it does feel like when Swerve started getting huge, Ospreay showed up and Tony Storm started getting huge.
Yeah.
It changed. Like everything changed.
Totally.
The shows got better and the storylines all got better and everything about it just got better. And I don't know if it's a combination of those three or just luck, like things go up and down sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it did elevate. I feel like it elevated AEW as a company.
Agreed. You said something that Swerve talked about on the media scrum afterwards. He was putting Ricochet over, and he was talking about WWE, and it was the most classy slam I think I've ever saw. Like he destroyed them, but it was just I'll just repeat it basically verbatim. He said, like, when you're there, you're given your character and they basically tell you how you're going to be.
Yeah.
And if that's you, it's you. If it isn't you, you better make it work, or you're going to be on that list of firings every few months
to work with. He's hard to
And Swerve put it in perspective in AEW. He's like, the difference is, yes, we're all playing, and he put up his air quotes, we're all playing characters, but these are all based in reality. We don't come here and say, oh, you're Elephant Man from Nicaragua. Like, no, like, Ricochet is, I mean, yes, his name's Ricochet, but he is just his normal personality turned up to 10.
And I like the histories that matter. Like,
yes,
that Ricochet and Swerve knew each other before.
That was the other thing that was the other thing that Swerve brought up, that there's all history that is refused to be looked at over there.
Yeah.
They just, and you could bring somebody in, and that's what he said. Like, you bring him in, and Swerve even referenced AR Fox. He was like, me, AR Fox, and Ricochet have like 2 years worth of like TV time,
right?
Back with Lucha Underground, and it's like you could just reference that,
right?
You know what I mean? Like that was a good point that you made. Like it is things that you care about now,
and I can see how that doesn't work for some people, and how WWE's where
totally
it does work for some people, right? Like if you're just a good wrestler, like a very good wrestler, but you're not good at writing storylines, you're not good at writing promos, you're not good at coming up with a character. Yeah, WWE is probably way better for you.
I was just saying, look at Cody.
Yeah. They're going to give you a character. They're going to give you, and that's why it works for them when they get athletes like we've talked about NXT. They get like college level athletes who are talented physically, but they don't know how to write wrestling storylines or tell a story at all. So WWE will just tell you how to do that, and that's good for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
And the AEW way is probably hard for some people. Like if you're a great wrestler and you don't know how to pitch a storyline, you don't know how to write a promo, you don't know how to pitch an angle, right? You'll get there and you'll be like, oh, but look at what a great wrestler I am. I'm having great matches every week. And they're like, oh, go cut a promo. And you're like, I don't know what to do. And then you're bad at it. And then it doesn't work. And then it's kind of like, it's more sink or swim in AEW. They're just like, if you're great, just go be great.
Yeah.
And Swerve and Tony Storm can go be great, or Ricochet can be like, run with that, right? Like they can take whatever time they're given and run with it. And they obviously have.
Yeah. And we're talking about the women's division. The women's division is on legit fire right now. Like it is the hottest thing on, I would even say in AEW in general. The whole division is nuts.
Now, do you think, I was just thinking about the women's division and someone who is a great wrestler but hasn't connected that well recently. Do you think that's Thunder Rosa's problem? Is she?
I was just thinking of her too.
Wrestler, but she just can't do the story part of it. She can't make it click because she's a great wrestler. And when she has feuds that work, they work. But then when she has feuds that don't work, they're pretty bad.
Yeah, I think what they need to do with this is just my opinion. Rosa just needs to work. Give her a mouthpiece. Yeah. She's not, and I was just gonna say this isn't a knock, and I'm totally gonna talk shit on her. This is totally a knock, but a knock that it's just one of her weak points. It's not.
And
it's not terrible.
It's not an English thing. I don't.
No,
think. I don't think it's it at all.
It's well, I mean, think about it. Like someone throws a microphone in your face, and it's like you have 2 minutes. You don't realize how long 2 minutes is until you're in talking on live television. You know,
yeah.
And like you said, like she's the perfect example of that. Like she needs a mouthpiece.
Or maybe they need to put her in a feud with someone who's very experienced at telling the story and let them do the story part. Right, like,
and then just have her show up and wrestle. Yeah,
right? Like they do the story, they cut the promos. Like say it's Mercedes, right? Like Mercedes knows what she's doing.
Yeah,
in terms of that, Mercedes will cut the promos. Mercedes will outline. Okay, here's the promo. I'm going to do this. Here's what you say. I'm just telling you what to say. Just say that, and she says it, and then maybe she gets into it. She's like, "Oh, that's how this works."
Yeah.
I never really understood that before. Now that I'm a part of it and I see it happening. Now I get it. Like maybe she needs that. Like maybe she needs like when everyone hates to praise CM Punk, but when CM Punk came and had the feud with MJF, like MJF was always good at cutting promos. He always was. He was always a good wrestler. But I think the feud with CM Punk made him figure, oh, I can tap into like backstory thing. I can tap into my personality and I can make that a part of the storyline, and that makes the feud better. And I think since he did that feud with CM Punk, he's like, oh, now I get it. Okay. I can do that with somebody else. Now I can do that with William Regal, or I can do that with Hangman Page, and it'll make it better. Maybe she needs that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you said something about Mercedes having people that were taught the WWE way. Like you can't take anything away from the way WWE teaches people how to talk. Now granted
they talk kind of the same way, but
that's what I was just going to say. Granted it is a little robotic, but they know how to do it. And there's at least a foundation there. Someone like you have to think of in AEW, like, well, we're getting less and less, but probably 85% were from the indies, where your promo is you come out, you say, I'm going to fight you tonight, Rick. We have a big problem. And then you're like, yeah, Blasco, we're going to fight. And then we wrestle.
And all the heel needs to do is go, this town is stupid. And everyone
So, but when you're on television every single week and the same people are watching you, you need a little direction.
You need
some people.
Yeah. In an indie show, what I've noticed with indie shows is a lot of the time you don't know who the face or the heel is. You don't know who the characters are because you've never seen them before. Right.
True.
So they just have to come out and the heel needs to call everyone fat and stupid. And then the face needs to come in and save somebody. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's the face. That's the heel. Here we go. Yeah. Right. But you can't do that every week on a weekly TV show because that would get really old really fast.
Yeah. But having the WWE people and like former talent, even some former coaches, that formula does work. I mean, it might be a dull formula, but their formula, like you said, it can at least maybe steer somebody into
and then you can learn like, okay, WWE would have a promo this way with these points and go, oh, wouldn't it be cooler if I brought this in instead?
Yeah.
And AEW lets you do that, whereas WWE goes, no, that's not in the script. Don't say it.
I always, whenever we talk about WWE promos, I always think of Mox whenever he was like, and then, I don't know, someone like some 20-year-old had the gall to come up to me and say, you're going to read this on TV. And I crumbled it up and threw it at him.
Yeah.
I just always think that's that poor person was just doing their job.
Yeah. But like Mox hates it there. So he's just angry.
Yeah. And he's like, I looked him right in the eye and just crumbled up and threw it at him. So that ain't happening. So like that poor person.
That's the thing, like Mox is, but I found Mox pretty dull. The first time I found Mox kind of dull these days, like in ring and his character just kind of right.
Okay.
And I was thinking of when's the first time that I was kind of with Mox. And I think it's when he beat Orange Cassidy for the international title. I think it was All Out like 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I remember Orange Cassidy's run with the international title was awesome.
Yes,
and I was just like, if he beats Mox, that
just
so much for Orange Cassidy. And who cares what it does? Like he's John Moxley. It doesn't matter, right? Like he can come out the next night and be like, I'm mad at somebody else, and just that'll be that feud, right? Like, and then Mox won that match, and I know he got hurt afterwards, and it kind of screwed everything up. Like Mox won that match, and then I was just like, so what's the point of this then? Like, I know Mox is great. Like, do we need to hear Mox is great again? And this thing with the world title makes me like every match is kind of just like, I get what he's doing. Where I'm like, oh, he's not entertaining when he wrestles. He's not flashy. He's not high spots. He's not even really a brawler anymore. Right? He's not brawling through crowds really that much. His thing is like his offense looks like it hurts. Like it legitimately does. He's elbowing you in the neck. He's doing chokes. He's doing like, you know, jujitsu type holds. Like it looks painful and it looks like it's effective, but it doesn't look particularly interesting. And I think he needs to do something where he's just not the main guy, because then he can mix things up a bit. He doesn't have to be such. I think Biddy mentioned this before. Like he can be funny. He's funny. Like
he's hilarious.
His book is funny. He's a funny guy. Yeah, I've seen him in interviews with like Renee and stuff, and he's funny. And I think he doesn't need to be in a role where he's like super badass tough guy who beats everybody up. And it just sounds like his gimmick now is always just super badass tough guy who beats everybody up. And like that's boring now. Like I don't want to see that. I don't want to see the super badass tough guy just beat everybody up every week, because okay, then what? It does remind me of the Orange Cassidy thing. Like, okay, Orange Cassidy was the best international champion of all time, and Mox beat up. Okay, now what? Now what do we do? He just beats other people up? So like that's not fun. That's not interesting. I don't know. I don't know what he needs to do. I know I've gone back to the Mox thing again, but it's reminding me of like the veterans when we were talking about the veterans guiding people. Like Mox, I'm sure, has a ton of stuff to teach people, right? That they haven't about wrestling, like physically, the act of wrestling, about storytelling, about cutting promos. Like he's a good promo. He does a good job.
100%.
He has a million things that he can teach people. I don't think he needs to be super tough badass on TV in order to get like to look good or to be respected or to make a name for himself, because he's already that.
Yeah.
He's already a big name. He's already a big guy. Everyone appreciates what he's done for AEW. He was like their first kind of shock signing, right? When he showed up, it was like, oh my God, he left WWE and he's here.
Yeah.
But like,
amazing.
He doesn't need to do that anymore. He doesn't need to be like, look how tough I am. Look how bad at we know. Like, I get it. I get when he first showed up from WWE, he's like, I want to do this because they never let me do this. I'm just going to fight because that's what they didn't let me do. Sure, go for it. But like, it's been years now. Like, do something different. I don't know. It's hard for me to explain.
I understand. I get what you're saying.
Maybe he has so much that he can be sharing with people, and I'm sure he is. Like, I'm not saying he's not.
He absolutely is, absolutely
right. But putting him in a feud with Adam Copeland, I think, doesn't really like it's star power. But like Adam Copeland's not really learning much from Mox, and Mox isn't learning much from Adam Copeland. They both know a lot of stuff,
and that has to be one of those situations where they wanted to just wrestle each other.
Yeah, it has to be. But because I feel like Adam Copeland, same way, he has a ton of stuff that I'm sure he could teach people. And put him in a feud with Hangman or with, Ricochet, someone who, obviously Hangman's been a world champion. He's done a lot of stuff, but he's not Adam Copeland. He doesn't have that experience level. So put him in a feud with someone like that, someone like Takeshita or Kyle Fletcher, like a guy who's about to break in, and that would be great.
Or just give us a Copeland Christian.
Yeah.
For Christ's sake.
Just have them have a match and then become a team. That's all we want. Like just
again, talking about the tag division.
Yeah, just make them a team. That would be fun.
That's gonna happen one day, right?
The thing I hope so, because again, I don't mean to reference CM Punk as much as I have been, because
it's all good.
When he showed up, everyone was like, "Oh my God, all the things he's gonna do. He's gonna have matches with Kenny Omega, he's gonna have matches with whoever," and then like none of that happened because everything fell apart, right? He was an ass and everything fell apart. And I'm not saying Copeland's going to get himself fired. Like, I'm not saying that, but he could get hurt tomorrow. And
he already broke his leg once.
Right. So like, there's a chance that like, we're going to do a big thing with him and Christian in a year. Like they might not have a year. He might get hurt like tomorrow and not be able to wrestle anymore. Like the Hardys, right? Their whole thing was like, we're going to have the Hardys get their way to the title. They didn't last. They couldn't. Right, that was a different those were different circumstances, but still,
Oh, it needs to happen.
It needs to happen. It needs to happen soon.
Yes.
Needs to happen by that Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling show at
yes. So you can see it live.
So I can see it. Yeah.
Do you have any closing thoughts, my friend?
I want to talk a bit about Swerve for like 5 minutes. I know it's a long podcast, but I want to talk a bit about Swerve.
Yeah.
Swerve saved the end of that pay-per-view. Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it was a great pay-per-view, but he saved the end of it for sure.
Now, see, I agree with you totally. But that was definitely part of the plan.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I see there's people think there was some speculation that he was sent out to save it. And I was like, no, because too much worked.
Yeah.
You know, like I get they're wrestlers and like things could be changed on the fly. And then, you know, like Mox would know like, oh, okay, they sent somebody out. Then you go over and they talk to each other. And then no,
I think that was definitely planned.
Yeah. 100% planned. But yes, he did save it.
If that show ended with just Mox winning and walking away,
that would have been like a WCW ender.
That would have been such a down feel. You'd everyone leave it in the arena and watching at home and be like, oh, at least you left with like, it would have been like a WCW ending. Like, oh, nope, Hulk Hogan wins again. Sorry, suckers. Right?
Yeah.
Like, well,
it would have been like the last Ring of Honor pay-per-view when Jericho won. Yeah. And then half the building literally left in poor Athena.
Yeah. Yeah. Swerve saved that.
Yeah.
I thought Swerve, when that happened, I was like, oh, Swerve, I think, is going to win the title. I think they're going to call an audible here. I think they want to wait till All In and have Darby Allin or something win it. But now I'm just like, Swerve is so over. He's such a popular guy that everyone loves. I thought, maybe they're going to call an audible and he's going to beat Mox next pay-per-view and they're just going to move on from that.
Yeah.
But then Will Ospreay came out and challenged for All In and called out Mox. I'm like, oh, are they going to wait till All In to have Mox and Ospreay?
Well, Will didn't call out that yet. He said he was going to enter the Owen, which I thought was awesome.
Right. But he did specifically mention, if it's Mox, I'm coming for the king. And, Assassin's coming for the king. And I was just like, oh, that might be the story that they run. And like, that would be a good story. But like, I don't want Mox to have the title till July. Like, that's too long.
That's way too long.
I think he needs to lose it to Swerve. And then Swerve can lose it to Ospreay if they want. But
I would say give Swerve another 3-month run.
Yeah.
Like wins it in April, has it all because it's April 5th.
Yeah.
So he'd have basically all of April, all of May, all of June, and then half of July. It's 4.5 months, 3.5 months, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's a big run.
Now, why do you think they're doing Copeland Mox again? If Swerve is already the next guy and he's already started a feud with Moxley coming off. That was really cool, by the way, when he jumped off the
that
balcony.
Was awesome.
That was really cool. Why do you think they're doing it again? Just because they want to do another big match, like a big match on Dynamite, or?
I don't know. I have this.
When I saw they were doing it, my first thought was, I thought this was done.
Well, I thought that too, but I have a slight, I don't know. There's something telling me that Mox might lose.
Yeah.
And it's obviously going to be via shenanigans.
But then why not do that at Revolution?
Oh, I totally agree with you. But like this fact that they keep saying that it's a street fight, there's no rules, but like obviously that means that somebody's going to,
right?
Like the Death Riders are either going to all come back, and then, but if they all come back, obviously that's how you get Darby and all the, Copeland's crew back.
I've read online before, faces are always so stupid. Because they're like, I know the guy that I'm going to face has like 4 guys backing him up who are just always interfering in matches. So what I'm going to do is have a match where it's just allowed.
Yeah. And I'm going to come by myself.
Right. I think Christian might get involved because he's like,
totally.
That was interesting, the thing he had with Nick Wayne. I know we're going
that was awesome.
That was fun. Christian's probably going to get involved in this. But I hope it's Swerve because Swerve is awesome. I love the Swerve. Oh, we didn't even talk. I know it's long. I have to say it though.
Yeah, go.
MJF and Hangman is so good.
It's very good.
The match was great. That was one of my favorite matches on the show. It was good.
Talk about perfect. It was, a lot of people complained that it was short. I thought it was perfect time.
No, I thought it was perfect. It was great.
Yeah. It left you wanting more.
And the fact that MJF Those like they showed him on Dynamite being like, stupid,
fraud.
You're not better than anybody, right? And then the cameras came on and he's MJF again. Like, there's something underneath that he's And the pile driver onto the chair was incredible. I've never seen that.
Yeah, I've never seen it either.
That was nuts. Hangman is so good. That's the other thing. Hangman is so good. MJF is so good. Ospreay's so good. Swerve is so good. Like, just give me them.
Well, that's what I said. I don't think there's just 4 pillars anymore. I think we have there's a solid foundation to this house.
Yeah. And again, the women's division, like Megan Bayne is now in like 4 different feuds.
Yeah.
That's
and they're just building her up to be a monster. It's everything is, I mean, it's on all cylinders. I know we say that all the time, but I mean, there's not
since around it was last year's Dynasty, right? When Swerve won the belt.
Yeah.
Like around maybe a couple months before that. So like a year, 15, 18 months ago. The last 15 to 18 months of AEW have been when they talk about like, oh, the company fell into a lull, and it did. Like it did. But like the last year and a half or so has been really good. And this last 6 months have been like excellent stuff. And I know whatever people are talking about the ratings or the attendance in the buildings, and like the attendance in the buildings is getting better, by the way. Like if you follow it, it is getting better.
And the buildings are so cool.
Yeah, they're going to smaller buildings, which I like. And the cooler buildings, like cooler looking venues, which I love. Yeah,
the venues like are becoming a character in AEW.
They need to mic the crowd differently. Because sometimes, like when Tony Storm was cutting a promo, you could hear one guy yell something. And
I always hate that.
And it makes it, first of all, that guy's a dick. Shut up.
Yeah.
Second of all, it makes it seem like she's cutting a promo in front of like 5 people.
Yeah.
Because you can hear one guy yell. So like, I know that there's thousands of people in the building.
The Simpsons crowd.
Yeah. So mic it differently so that you can't hear individual people saying stuff. Because that's weird to me. It's annoying. It detracts from it for me too.
I agree. Because it takes me out of that moment. And if I'm there, it puts me there and mad.
Yeah.
Like, just shut up, dude.
Yeah. Because I'm watching a promo that I really like. And then now I'm just like, what is this guy talking about? Shut up. And then I'm thinking about that guy and how he's annoying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I agree.
If you're at a show, don't yell out. You're not that, no matter what you have to say, it's not that good. Like it's never that witty.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the 18,000. Yeah, the other 18,000 people don't sit around and laugh.
Right. No one goes, oh, this guy's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that never happens.
So don't do that.
Well, anything else?
No, I know I talked a lot, as I tend to do, but I'm excited.
Hey,
I've been excited for AEW for I didn't watch it this week, but I've been starting watching Collision again, like I said. It's a good time. And it's all heating up now. Then there's Dynasty, then there's Double or Nothing, then there's All In. Like it's gonna be nuts.
So much. We are at Elite City Pod on all social media. Drop us a line. We like to interact. We've had a couple new subscribers, so thank you for subscribing. That is about it. We decided before we started recording today that we're going to change our recording schedule to probably Sundays, and so the show will be out on Mondays now because we do a little more in depth again, like we did today.
And when we were doing it on Fridays, like if we're talking about Collision, it's a week old, and about Dynamite, we'd be like, oh, what's going to happen on Collision? And then by the time most of you listen to it, Collision is already on.
Exactly.
And then it's like, so why are you talking about a show that's already happened as if it has, like, it works better this way.
Yes. And we will, we'll tell you if, obviously we're not going to record on days that there's pay-per-views. Pay-per-view week, the previews will probably come out Saturday, day before the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But we'll keep you posted. Follow us on social media.
Happens, we'll change it, but.
Yeah, absolutely. If we need to do a special show or something, we'll be on it. But again, thank you for listening. And just thank you for everything. Everyone's awesome. Until next week. Later.